Florida's Women in Energy Leadership Forum was launched to inform, inspire, motivate diverse talent to join the energy workforce by intentional recognition of current female energy leaders who contribute to growing Florida's economy and the purposeful sharing of their professional journeys. We are creating opportunity. Join me each week as we meet new leaders in energy and listen to their important roles in an industry that is vital to the country's future.
Welcome to Florida's Women in Energy Leadership Forum podcast. I'm Sarah Sims, Director of Government Affairs here at Lila Jaber Consulting. Today, I'm joined by two guests. We have Aliya, the U.S. Director of Strategic Partnerships for Allume Energy, and Alicia Brown, the Clean Energy Program Manager for the City of Savannah. Ladies, welcome. We're very excited to have you join us today and look forward to discussing the partnerships with Allume and the City of Savannah and both of your personal career journeys as well. So let's dive right in with some introductions. Aliya, I'm going to start with you. Please introduce yourself and your role at Allume.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Sarah. It's a pleasure to be with you this morning. Yes, my name is Aliya Bagewadi, and I am from Chicago, Illinois, by way of Southern India. And at Allume, I lead our engagements and partnerships with utilities, government agencies, and energy equity organizations in the U.S. to help foster an environment where shared solar can thrive and directly benefit renters in affordable or multifamily housing.
And such an important technology as we see this clean energy transition and focus on solar. Allume has developed this groundbreaking technology, SolShare, opening rooftop solar for apartment renters to participate in. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that technology that Allume has developed and the company as a whole?
Absolutely. So Allume started in Melbourne, Australia in 2015. And for context, Australia has the highest penetration of rooftop solar in the world. About 30% of all single-family homes have rooftop solar on them. So if you contrast that to the US, only about 4 to 6% of single-family homes have rooftop solar installed in the US. But even those single-family homeowners in the US who do have rooftop solar, they can see savings of about $1,500 a year. And they can also lower their carbon footprint by 12 tons of CO2 per year. So the very same energy equity question that is taking center stage now in the US was happening in Australia about a decade ago. And that question being, how do we ensure that everyone, not just wealthier homeowners, but really everyone can access the environmental and financial benefits of consuming energy from the sun? So with that question in mind, a group of mission-driven engineers came together to develop the SolShare, which is a breakthrough technology that enables renters in apartments, in apartment buildings, to share energy from a single rooftop solar system. And since its birthplace or origin in Australia, Allume is continuing on a mission to unlock rooftop solar to apartments, to apartment renters around the world, and including the United States.
Incredible. And just to dive a little bit deeper, this is a back of the meter solution, correct?
This is a behind the meter solution. The two ways that it can unlock sort of rooftop solar in apartments is there are two major hurdles that have long hindered solar for apartment renters. And the first is that multi-metered buildings like apartments required multiple solar systems per unit, which could be prohibitively expensive. And the SolShare gets rid of that need for an individual solar system per unit by sharing the solar behind the meter from a single solar system within the building. And the second challenge that it resolves for is the long-standing sort of split incentive challenge in which the building owners who would make the investment would not directly benefit from the solar, because tenants would, in the form of lower energy bills. So that created a situation in which building owners had no real incentive to invest. And the soul share solves that split incentive problem by lowering the entire energy of the building, the entire building's energy usage, which includes the common meter, which the hallway lights, the lobby lights that the building owner pays for, and tenant meters. And by being a behind the meter solution, it really doesn't require utilities to, or really any energy companies to need to change any of their policies or programs to fit the soul share. So sorry, a long answer.
Wonderful. No, absolutely. It's a great technology. We're really excited to have it start being integrated into the U.S. So Alicia, that's where I would like to bring you in. I know in your various roles you've been working to assist Allume expand in the United States. So please introduce yourself and how you initially began your partnership with Allume.
Sure. Thank you, Sarah. So I'm currently the Clean Energy Program Manager for the city of Savannah, Georgia, which, like several cities, has pretty ambitious goals for 100% renewable energy. We have committed to 100% renewable electricity community-wide by 2035, so every home and business in Savannah. We've also centered those goals in equity and really thought about how we can redress historic inequities and create opportunities for underserved communities through not only jobs, but also the direct benefits of reduced energy burden and just increased disposable income. In my previous role at the Mississippi Public Service Commission is where I met Allume. I was a DOE Solar Energy Innovation Fellow, which is really a very open-ended position. You're really just placed with the host institution and told to undertake a project that can advance the cause of solar, and specifically equitable solar. So in addition to doing some work on Mississippi's, they're not net metering rules, but they call them that, they're net billing rules, I was trying to come up with a way that I could really create solar opportunities for low-income families. And I read about the Soul Share in PV Magazine. And I thought, like what's the risk of sending an email? So I sent an email and I met one of Aliya's colleagues, and I left that conversation with her thinking, I'm going to pilot this in Mississippi, and just went through a lot of different connections that I had with a solar installer who had kind of been on the leading edge of some other projects, and a NGO executive director that I knew who connected me to a building owner, and just all of these pieces fell into place to develop a pilot project. And now my goal is to bring the Soul Share into Savannah, and more specifically like the rest of Georgia, and really see it grow across the Southeast, because we're such an underserved part of the solar market because we don't have net metering. But the Soul Share can really reduce the need for net metering by taking advantage of the fact that every household has a diverse load curve. So maybe someone works from home and someone else comes home at 5 p.m. and has that traditional peak. Like, you can take advantage of that by routing the solar that's produced at noon to the person working from home or a senior, and the person coming home at 5 can get what's being produced towards the end of the day.
Absolutely. And as you mentioned it, municipalities across the United States are adopting these clean energy goals, these ambitious clean energy goals. Can you speak to a little bit about what the greatest challenges might be for these cities to meet those goals moving forward?
Yeah, there's a lot of challenges. I would say probably the biggest one is the fact that, at least in the Southeast, most of us are not in an RTO market. Most of us are not in a deregulated state. So we're really dependent on incumbent investor-owned utilities. They make the policies about grid access. They make policies about distributed energy resources. They dictate investments in energy efficiency for the most part. So there's just a lot of ways that what is actually delivered to us is outside of our control. And even the ways that we can invest in renewables are somewhat limited. So that's one challenge. The other challenge is just the financials of it. even though we know that investing in clean energy is going to pay off many times over in the long run, like in terms of not only public health, but also just energy savings and investment in jobs in our community. That upfront investment can be steep, especially since climate change just feels like a problem that's kind of far off. Even though we're seeing the effects today, it's really hard sometimes on a 4-year city council cycle to say, you know what, I see homelessness now, or I see the issues with hunger or lack of affordable housing today. It's tough to see that and say, I'm going to prioritize something that we may not see the worst effects of for 20, 30 years.
Sure, absolutely. Aliya, as we now have learned, Allume was founded in Australia. So kind of feeding off of what Alicia has shared with us on the challenges from the municipality side, what have you seen as challenges trying to grow your business in the United States compared to other countries?
Yeah, well, for one, the market opportunity in the United States is on a very different level. So the U.S. population is about 12 times that of Australia, and we also have the largest multifamily real estate market in the world. So our commercial team definitely has plenty of work cut out for them. But despite the market size, there are, as Alicia was saying, there are large swaths of the country that the solar industry just hasn't really adequately catered to or served. And Mississippi is certainly one of them, despite Mississippians really facing some of the highest energy burdens in the country. So that can be a challenge when sort of a lot of the infrastructure for the solar industry doesn't exist or isn't available. One of the challenges is the solar in general. As Alicia was saying, it's very hard to pencil or for it to make sort of financial sense from a buyer's initial perspective, though it makes sense environmentally, health-wise, all these different ways. And the reason for that is the cost of electricity is so low in some parts of the United States compared to elsewhere in the world. So for example, Australia, the cost of electricity is around 26 cents per kilowatt. And then try and compare that to, parts of the US where it's 6 to 10 cents per kilowatt. It becomes a lot more difficult for building owners or to try and justify solar where the cost of electricity is very low. So that's definitely a big challenge. I would say, a major unique challenge in the United States is the rhetoric and the discourse around climate change and renewable energy. In the U.S., it's a very highly politicized topic, and as a result, people who are suffering are really caught in the crossfires of partisan politics, and it can be extremely difficult to navigate both as an individual in the space, but also as a business. And it's also difficult to try and share that experience or that complexity with colleagues in other parts of the world where there's much more widespread recognition or consensus that we collectively need to be reducing our carbon emissions as soon as possible. But what is certainly true for us for Allume in the U.S., Allume generally, actually, be it the U.S. or Australia, Europe, what have you, is that we are as a company, we're very committed to pushing forward a clean energy transition that brings everyone along. So our vision is really a world in which everyone can benefit from the sun's energy and that we can really share power. And I mean that both literally and figuratively, and we can share power with one another. So those, I would say, some of the large challenges unique to the U.S., but also I guess the last point is true for everywhere that we're operating.
Absolutely. And thankfully, our IOUs, our municipal and utilities, our co-ops, they have adopted these standards and these goals, and they're looking for the answers through new technologies. So I think it's a really exciting time, here in the state of Florida, but also in the Southeast in general. So we've talked about a few pilot projects. So I'd like to dive a little bit more into that. Can you speak to that pilot project in Mississippi that you guys worked on, and then also, Aliya, your partnership with OUC here in Florida?
I can start with the Mississippi project, since it actually started before the one in Orlando, and I'm really upset that they ended up edging me out.
Just a little state rivalry there.
Just a little rivalry. The big thing is we got to remember that doing first of its kind projects, or in general, when you're doing projects in lower income communities, there are challenges that you might not face in other places. So in Jackson, it's in the property is in a historic district. So we had to get historic district approval, and some of the communications equipment, like in this affordable housing property, weren't up to the snuff that's required by the sole share at first. So it was kind of an iterative process. But that pilot project was really interesting because it layered together a lot of creative approaches. First of all, was go into the utility hat in hand and saying, look, this is the future. You talk in your PR campaigns about how you're concerned about energy affordability. You assert in your filings that you're not against solar. I'm asking you to prove it, and I'm inviting you to come into this project and to learn what you can from this product. Is this a way that we can, reduce loads on the system to the benefit of everyone? Is this a way that we can increase solar without having to build new transmission lines that are notoriously difficult to build and expensive? There was a lot to be learned from this project, and I really appreciate Entergy Mississippi for taking a chance on it and coming in and actually being a partner in that project, both financially and in terms of solving some of the regulatory problems that are going to arise with the new technology. We also had a really good partnership in Jennifer Welch, who was the landlord for the property in question. She sat down with me and was like, look, I'm willing to try something new. I know this isn't something that's done in Mississippi very often, certainly not in Jackson, which has made the national news recently for some of its challenges with its water system. But she was willing to have a long-term view and accept a long payback on this investment. Because solar, one of the challenges is that we just have that short-term thinking. We're not thinking about the fact that it's a 25 and 30-year asset. We want to see that return in 10 years or less, or we don't want to do it. But if you're investing in something for the long term, you've got to be willing to have a little more patience. And I appreciate Jennifer for having that long view and being willing to not only take that long view, but make sure that she's sharing the benefits of her investment with her tenants. We also
absolutely, and we have to be looking forward, and I just commend you for your leadership and holding them accountable, because without you, really taking that initiative to reach out to Allume, that partnership wouldn't have happened. So, Aliya, do you want to speak to that a little bit more before you discuss the OUC partnership?
Yeah, I think we all at Allume are really grateful and thankful that Alicia really worked with so many different stakeholders to make this work. And she can tell you how challenging it can be. But I think what was great was her ability to engage with Entergy and show them how this was a product that could benefit them, and sort of tying that into your question about the Orlando Utility Commission and our partnership with them. The Orlando Utility Commission has been really a tremendous partner for us. OUC is a municipally owned utility that is expecting to grow its solar energy capacity to, I think, 90,000 Floridian homes by 2025. And they have really been a leader in the industry in Florida and beyond. And I would say the credit for that partnership really needs to go to Tom Gross at OUC, who quickly understood that the Soul Share was a solution that could help OUC reach their affordable clean energy goals, especially in low income and often underserved communities. So we're very grateful to Tom for being among the first to recognize how the Soul Share could enable utilities to actively pursue energy equity and reduce energy burdens and serve LMI communities. And I think Alicia did an excellent job of communicating that to Entergy as well. So we are very thrilled to partner with a number of municipal and investor-owned utilities like OUC, like Entergy, be it in Florida, be it in Louisiana, be it in Texas, be it in Mississippi, who similarly want to support low-income families and reduce energy poverty in their service territories.
Absolutely. Anything to add to that, Alicia?
Well, I think that covered it really well. There's a lot of advantages, and I'm looking forward to more utilities taking the time to sit down and learn about this technology and to work with local governments, because I think this has the potential to be revolutionary. It's just a matter of getting the word out. Because you're not going to see things like virtual net metering that have been so pivotal for multifamily solar in places like California. You're not going to see that in the Southeast. Maybe that's like a pessimistic point of view, but I've been in this area my whole life, and I just see some of the skepticism and the challenges with that. So I think coming up with solutions that don't necessarily require your regulators to reach a epiphany about the climate, I think we should embrace those where we can.
Yep, absolutely. So very true. On that, we'll kind of turn to a broader picture. In our careers, we've seen the rapid evolution of technology, and Allume being one of them. How do you think that will affect the industry moving forward, and what policy changes will need to be set in place to accommodate all of this emerging tech?
I'm certainly curious to hear Alicia's perspective on this.
I have a few thoughts on this. I mean, one thing is sometimes you have to find champions who are willing to lean into a new technology. So for instance, like what I did in Mississippi, like we funded the pilot project using an energy efficiency revolving loan fund that was housed in the state's energy office. And one of the criteria for getting a loan under that program was it had to use commercially proven technology. And I was like, does it count if it's been proven in Australia? It's a different device here in the US. I understand that sometimes you got to step up and just act like you know exactly what you're saying. And like, yes, this is a commercially proven technology deployed on 3 continents. And, you got to take a stand for new technologies when they have potential. And I would encourage, especially private foundations and funders who have more flexibility, encouraging them to be willing to take those first risks and bridge that commercialization valley of death that so many cool ideas often get stuck in. We also need more federal funding for those kind of initiatives, like really bringing them into the public consciousness and proving them out.
Absolutely. And as you mentioned with the grant funding, there's a plethora of grant opportunities, but it's having that champion at the utility that has the time and dedication to look for those opportunities and find the partnerships. And we've been really lucky within the forum community to find those leaders that, like you said, are really champions for this clean energy transition. With that, we're going to get a little bit more personal. This is the the part of the
Sarah,
podcast where we do that. Yes, go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to. I wanted to also mention.
Sure, go ahead.
It's very similar to what Alicia said about sort of the, the rapidly changing technological landscape and how that relates to policy. I think what we in the multifamily space, I think what we're seeing is that we're really seeing building owners wanting to decarbonize their portfolios, wanting to decarbonize their buildings, tenants wanting to participate in the clean energy, decarbonization movement that's happening. But a significant barrier to adopting new technologies is that financing option, and there are many challenges around that, and significant. The two biggest around the financing aspect is sort of mortgage companies and investors not really aligning on the sort of long-term access to financing that would support these kinds of technologies. And I would say so that's one thing, is the sort of financing that needs to be available that really supports the multifamily industry in decarbonization. So that's one aspect of policy that I really hope to see change, to enable building owners who want to decarbonize to do so. The second aspect that I would really like to see change is sort of within the investment community, and I mean that be them venture capital, angel investors, what have you. You have a lot of investors that are pursuing and wanting to pursue quick, fast solutions like software, and all of that's great, but really, as Alicia was saying, that we really need long-term solutions that are supporting especially low-income communities and communities that have long been underserved. And that takes time, and that takes a lot of work and a lot of effort. And it's a heavily collaborative effort. So I hope to see in time that the investment community will also start to redefine value as not just financial, but also the value that it's creating in society and in communities. So that's I guess not a policy shift, but more a shift in the landscape that I hope to see in the investment community.
No, that's a great point. And I think you would both agree that it's an education component, right? It's an education component with our policymakers, our legislators, our regulators, our city commissions, really to get them to move forward with some of these initiatives with this new technology rapidly emerging.
Absolutely.
Okay, now we're going to turn to the more personal side of the podcast. As you know, our mission here at Florida's Women in Energy Leadership Forum is to inform, inspire, and motivate. So this part of our podcast, we're going to dig in a little bit into what motivates you to pursue a career in the energy industry. So Alicia, I'd like to start with you. You're a chemical engineer. Can you speak to the importance of women in STEM-related fields? And have you seen an increase in women in energy? And do you see those opportunities increasing?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's certainly been improvement over time. When I was in college, I remember us being so thrilled because we hit 20% women in my major.
Wow.
1 in 5. So that kind of harkens back to a day when there might have been one woman in a class of 100 or 2 women. So certainly thrilled for that progress, but there's still so much more work to be done because women just have a unique skill set to bring into this space and all the adjacent spaces like the skilled trades. We know as we lean into this clean energy transition, we're going to need engineers, electricians, weatherization contractors, solar installers, solar design specialists, like all these range of skill sets, and also people who are really good at fostering partnerships and relationships and it may be nature, it may be nurture, it may be some combination of the two, but research consistently shows that diverse teams that have women at the table are better at those partnerships and collaborations that are necessary when we're talking about solving complex cross-cutting issues like those in the clean energy space. It's not just technology, but it's also policy and economics and culture shifts. And in general, we need more people of any kind in this space, but we also need people from each background to bring their lived experience, because you can't approach any two projects the same. The communities I work with in Savannah have different needs and different backgrounds than the people I worked with in Mississippi, even though they're both Southern communities. So just would love to see more women in this space and encourage them, like, don't be afraid if you don't have all the answers or you don't think that you have the full skill set. Sustainability is changing so rapidly that you have to be willing to learn on the job. So passion and the desire to problem solve and learn is so much more important than what you already know.
That is so true. I mean, wow, what a great point. What are you doing August 14th through the 16th? Because we better see you at the forum, and after having and spending this time with you, I think we might have to slide you in on a panel as well. So again, here it is. Yep, August 14th through the 16th in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Our theme this year is #build. So we will be really diving into all of the different components of building the energy industry. So we hope to all see you there. Registration is now open, and we are less than 3 months away. So like I said, Alicia, I think we might put you on the spot to commit to a speaking role there. But I did want to touch back on your point. It's so true. I think sometimes women are a little more timid if they don't feel, like they completely know everything about a role that they're going into or a goal that they have. I think, myself, I've done that before. I've kind of stayed in the background because I'm, unknowing what is forward, but every time I've gone out of my comfort zone, it's paid off. So I think it's so important to continue to highlight women in leadership positions and show that you can have a successful career in this industry and STEM-related fields. So anything to add to that, Aliya?
I think you both said it very well. And yeah, I also think back about it around, when I was choosing my major and thinking about, what I was felt good at versus what I, what my strengths were and what I didn't think I was particularly good at. And I think that we're, hopefully starting to change the narrative for younger generations to pursue what it is that they are passionate about, or what it is that they want to pursue, as opposed to, what it is they think that they're necessarily good at. So I'm hoping that, for younger generations, we're encouraging more of a growth mindset, as opposed to, a fixed mindset of what we think we are good at. And yeah, I mean, to echo what Alicia was saying about, we really need everyone in the clean energy transition in the industry. If we want to democratize access to energy, we really need a workforce that mirrors the population. And so, really, regardless of your background, there's a place for you, and there's a need for you. And I think what's really great about the space is that I would say the clean tech world is extremely welcoming. I didn't originally come from the clean tech world, but was able to have a lot of different conversations with people who wanted to bring new talent, so to say, in. And I think that we're still in that spot where it's a lot of people who want to collaborate with one another, because we truly need all hands on deck. So it's an incredible space to be in right now, and one that is very welcoming of people from all backgrounds. So definitely the more people that we can get from different backgrounds, the better for the industry and better for outcomes for really everyone, for all energy users.
Absolutely. And Aliya, as you mentioned, you didn't come from an energy background. So what is motivating, attracting you to stay and continue your career in this industry?
Yeah, well, there's so much happening right now in this clean energy transition. And to be honest, I really think that we're in an incredible moment where we can really see transformation, and we can transform the way that we operate economically. It goes beyond energy, and it goes, to the core of how we treat one another and how we see one another. And so, really, as I said, like if we can democratize energy as much as possible and bring people in, I think that we can solve for some of these historical inequities that are, entrenched in the energy industry, entrenched in much of our society. But this is a really unique opportunity to try and restructure our society as we know it. And at the core and at the base of society is energy, though we don't really think about it. So if we can, I think that's what really attracted me to work in the space right now. Is just it's an incredible time to try and support and create equity, and to ensure that people who are really suffering the most right now due to energy burdens, due to energy insecurity, and just generally in the country right now, can really be at the forefront in having their voices heard to restructure and transform the way that we operate as a society.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think what's most rewarding for me on the policy side of things is to see, legislation or policy that you've worked on become law, and influence that you've had, and introductions you've made with companies to see, these projects take off. And that influence is so rewarding when we're all working towards, a common goal. So I think that's most rewarding for me. And we talk about this a lot too, is always having a champion, how important it is to have a champion in your career, someone that is continually pushing you out of your comfort zone, continually making sure that you're striving to be the best. So I think, that's so important too. But it really, truly is such an exciting industry. So I'll leave you with two last questions. And Alicia, I'll start with you. What has been most rewarding so far in your career, and what goals do you have for the future?
Wow, that's a good question. I mean, honestly, I definitely would rank the Soul Share pilot in Mississippi way up there, because what's really funny about that is, like, my boss at the time, a public service commissioner in Mississippi, I told him back in November of 2020, like, I'm going to do a pilot project with the Soul Share. And he thought I was nuts. Like, yeah, okay, that will be a cool project. Maybe it'll happen 5 years from now. I came back to him sometime in 2021. I guess it was like June or so. I was like, hey, we're going to the historic review board with my Soul Share project. He said, that's still happening? And then I got to tell him earlier this year that it was online and producing. And we're doing a media event later this year to bring attention to the project. So, like, that moment of being able to say, yes, sir, it is still happening. Like, no thanks. So, anyone didn't believe in the ability to get it done. But that was really...
But you did.
I believe I could do it. And I'm not going to say like I did it alone. I did not. It wouldn't have happened without some of the relationships that I had, like, Jeff Canton with Solar Alternatives taking on the project, Mel with Allume, who was always taking my calls, even if I'm sure in the back of her mind she was wondering whether I'd actually get it done. Mississippi Development Authority, Entergy, like all the different players in that project. But yeah, that's one of the ones out there. That, or I led the Georgia Coalition of Local Governments through an IRP and rate case intervention here in Georgia. It was 5 local governments. We had no money, so we didn't have an attorney representing us. It was very much like, honestly, like 3 city staffers under the age of 30 leading that initiative. And our efforts in collaboration with like the other NGOs and the public utility staff that were involved, we saved Georgia ratepayers over $1 billion,
Wow.
made a functioning community solar program with actual benefits for participants, and increased solar compensation by 4 cents a kilowatt hour.
That is certainly something to be proud of. And where do you see yourself in the next 10 to 20 years? Because my master plan is to recruit you to Florida. So.
That's a question I ask myself every day. Really, like how I'm approaching it is I'm trying to figure out like where I can go and have the most influence while still staying true to what I want out of a career, which is I want a career that allows me to innovate and do something a little bit different every day. I want to really see that impact. And that's part of what led me into local government, was figuring out if local government might be that space. And I think in some ways it is, in some ways it isn't. I know that I could have an impact anywhere, but I'm still keeping the options open, just because I think there's always going to be ups and there's always going to be downs. There's not really one space you can occupy and solve climate change. So yeah, just kind of keeping my eyes open for opportunities, continuing to meet people and network and see. I feel like I'm just going to know when it's time for the next step and what that is.
Absolutely. Aliya, I'll leave it to you for the last word here. What has been most rewarding for you so far, and what advice would you give to someone pursuing, to maybe a college student pursuing a career in the industry?
Well, I just wanted to say I think everyone's trying to recruit Alicia. So I would say that I think my career highs is honestly being able to work. It's just an honor to be able to work in a space where, it fundamentally needs to be a collaborative process. We won't move the needle. We won't succeed if we don't have everyone's input, everyone's voice, everyone walking together forward on this. And so to be in a space where you're not trying to necessarily capture massive market share, or you're not trying to dominate, you're really trying to bring people along with you. And the success is measured by how well we do that. How many people can we bring with us? That's a really incredible time and space to be working in. And being able to see and work with people like Alicia, who are fighting the good fight and championing their communities and ensuring that people who could benefit the most from these technologies are should be the first to receive it. And so I'm very happy that that we could work with people like Alicia, who are just really supporting and championing their communities. It's just, it fills me with a lot of nourishment and joy. And I guess what I would say to young people who are looking to enter the field or just young in their career is to lean into who you are. Don't try to be somebody don't try to be what you see on screen or what you hear in this podcast, or just you are who you are, and there's something special and unique about you and how you operate and how you think. And so rather than trying to emulate what you see, just figure out what it is that makes you special, what makes you tick, what nourishes you, and be proud of it. You don't need to hide from it. Just to I guess cheesily end on Sheryl Sandberg. Not that I meant to, but to lean into it. don't be afraid to be who you are. It's a gift.
Absolutely. Great point in it. And it's easy when you're passionate about what you're doing, right? Ladies, thank you so much. You truly are both women in energy leadership. You encompass everything that we highlight at the forum. So looking forward to seeing you both there in August. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.